entertain more people than the Circus Maximus. It was the largest arena ever constructed. It held twice the number of spectators of today's biggest stadium. It offered the Romans the spectacle of speed, danger, and death.
Here they came to watch feats of skill and daring and excitement and adventure. There was really nothing else like it.
A third of a mile long and 150 yards wide, the Circus Maximus was the arena for great spectacle, wild beasts, gladiators, and most famously, chariot racing. It could hold up to 350,000. Admission was free, paid for by the state. But for the Emperor Trajan who built it, it was well worth it. This was premium advertising space.
Trajan, like most emperors, wanted to build a lasting monument to his own glory, and the Circus Maximus was the obvious place. There he could meet the crowds, and he could meet them famously on the same level. Trajan fancied himself a man of the people.
The arena allowed Trajan to entertain 1/3 of Rome's population in one sitting. In the middle of the track, he built a centerpiece 1,000 feet long. It was called the Spina, and represented the broken back of Rome's enemies. The centerpiece was an obelisk towering 80 feet high. It had once displayed the power of Ramesses II, the greatest pharaoh. Now it had a new master, Rome. Earlier attempts at building stadiums had all ended in disaster. The very first Circus Maximus was built 500 years earlier. Made of wood, the structure was prone to fire and had to be replaced many times. But by 100 AD, Trajan set about rebuilding it once and for all.
The Emperor Trajan refurbished it and replaced what had been a largely wooden structure with a magnificent building of marble and stone. Really the first permanent circus which the Romans had ever had.
Trajan's Circus Maximus became the most successful stadium. The secret of its survival was down to the newly discovered miracle building material, concrete. This magical mixture was to liberate architecture, and the Romans were the first to develop it.
Concrete certainly had its benefits from the Roman emperor's point of view, in that it made it possible to build at a much more rapid pace than had been the case before. But also, the Roman emperors were building complexes that were larger and larger to accommodate more and more people.
When the Circus Maximus was built, only the top section was constructed from wood. The first 3 floors, near to the shops and stores, were built from concrete and decorated with brick and marble. This fireproof structure allowed shops to be developed right along the length of the stadium. And despite the risk of fire from the many arcades and shops, the building survived for 500 years. The Roman people had never experienced a stadium like it. Today, only the scant outline of its foundations remain. But once the Circus Maximus was the busiest building on earth. Trajan's construction, over 100 feet high, contained 4 banks of tiered seating. It looped around the track to a length of nearly 1,500 yards. The writer Pliny described it as beautiful as a temple, a sight to be seen for its own sake, quite apart from the spectacles contained therein. The arena had to be strong enough to contain some uncontrollable spectacles. At one event, 63 leopards, 40 bears and elephants were released. To increase crowd safety, a ditch was dug running 10 feet wide and 10 deep, all around the edge. The Emperor Nero introduced a barrier covered in smooth ivory, which revolved when touched and allowed animals no grip to climb it. It meant the action could take place right in front of the spectators. The Circus Maximus was so large, it needed spectacle on a grand scale, and nothing gripped the Roman crowds more than chariot racing.
The race begins when a handkerchief is dropped, signaling its start. The gates open, all 12 chariots emerge at once. They have to stay in straight lines for a few moments, and then at a certain point they're all allowed to go as they like. They then race hell for leather for 7 times around the circus, and finally across the finishing line, which is opposite the imperial box where the emperor sat.
Just like motor racing today, the course was being continually updated. The most dangerous parts of the track were the corners, where the teams cut the shortest course around a turning post. Chariots would collide and charioteers would be trampled underfoot. 50 died every year. If they managed to survive, charioteers became glamorous superstars. Spectators placed bets on the different colored teams. Men, women, and children would watch the racing. The Circus Maximus made the Emperor Trajan popular, but he didn't stop there. He became one of Rome's greatest builders, and went on to construct another wonder of architecture called Trajan's Forum.